Have you ever noticed how we live our lives thinking we have all the time in the world? We wake up every morning, make our plans, check our phones, scroll through social media, and we somehow convince ourselves that life will wait for us. But here's a simple truth: it won't. Life doesn't wait. Time doesn't wait. Every second that passes is a second you'd never get back. And yet, most of us live as if tomorrow is guaranteed. Let me share a small story with you. A few years ago, I met an elderly man in his late 80s. His eyes were gentle, yet they carried a quiet urgency, a wisdom born of experience. I asked him what he regretted most in life, expecting him to talk about money or missed opportunities or unfulfilled dreams. But he said something so simple, yet so profound. I wasted so much time worrying about things that didn't matter, and I didn't spend enough time being present with the people I loved. That struck me deeply. How often do we do exactly the same? We spend hours worrying, stressing, chasing titles, chasing recognition, chasing a life we think we need, and we forget that the real treasure is happening right in front of us. Think about it for a moment. You have 24 hours in a day. Every single person on this planet has the same 24 hours. You cannot borrow more, you cannot pause it, and you cannot reclaim a second once it's gone. And yet, how many of us spend hours scrolling mindlessly, stuck in resentment, trapped in anger, or comparing ourselves to someone else's life? Every moment you waste is a moment you can never retrieve. Time is the one resource we all share equally, yet most of us treat it carelessly. Here's another way to see it. Imagine your life is like a jar of sand. Every grain of sand is a moment of your life. Some people fill that jar with meaningless things, worries, fears, distractions, while others fill it with experiences, love, learning, and joy. When the jar is full, there's no room for more. And the truth is, you will reach that point. Your jar will be full. The question is, what will it be full of? Will it be full of regrets, of time wasted, of opportunities ignored? Or will it be full of meaningful moments, laughter, kindness, and memories that make your heart smile? Many of us think that life will give us time. We say, I'll visit my parents next month, or I'll spend more time with my children when I'm not so busy, or I'll chase my dreams once I'm financially secure. But what if next month never comes? What if tomorrow is not guaranteed? Life is fragile. Life is fleeting. And the only moment that truly belongs to you is this very second. I remember a young man telling me once that he was always busy chasing promotions at work, thinking that someday all his hard work would pay off. He never noticed the birthdays he missed, the friendships he neglected, the moments with his parents slipping quietly away. And then one day, he faced a health scare that made him pause. Suddenly, all the achievements seemed meaningless compared to the time he had lost. That moment changed his perspective entirely. It reminded him, as it should remind all of us, that time is more valuable than gold, more precious than any treasure we chase in life. But how do we honor this gift of time? How do we stop letting life slip through our fingers? It starts with awareness. Begin to notice how you spend your moments. Stop worrying about things you cannot control. Stop postponing joy and love. Invest your time in what truly matters. Meaningful conversations, genuine connections, personal growth, acts of kindness, and self-reflection. Remember the small things. The smiles, the hugs, the shared laughter, these are what give life its real richness. And here's the beauty of it: when you treat time as precious, life itself becomes richer. You start to live intentionally. Every choice becomes meaningful. Even a simple cup of tea with a loved one becomes a treasure. Every sunrise becomes a gift. Every laugh becomes a memory etched in the heart. Life doesn't need grand gestures to be beautiful. It only asks for presence, awareness, and gratitude. So today, I want to ask you to pause, look around, look at the faces of the people near you, look at the world around you. Take a deep breath and realize time is moving, whether you are ready or not. Life is happening, whether you notice it or not. And the choice is yours. Will you let it slip by, or will you honor it, cherish it, and live it fully? Remember, life is short, time is precious, and this moment, the one you are in right now, is a gift. Treat it as such, and your life will begin to change in ways you cannot even imagine. We often think of happiness as something we will achieve in the future. We believe that happiness is waiting for us at the end of a promotion, at the end of a relationship, after buying that dream car, or reaching some distant goal. But here's the irony: by the time we reach that milestone, our mind has already moved the goalposts. It says, "No, I'll be happy when," and suddenly, happiness is always somewhere ahead, never where we are. And in that chase, life passes us by. I once met a young professional, full of energy, intelligence, and ambition. Every day he worked tirelessly, believing that one day he would find happiness in his achievements. He would tell me, "Once I get this promotion, once I own this house, once I reach this milestone, I will finally be happy." But as we spoke, I noticed the tiredness in his eyes, the subtle sadness hidden beneath the surface. I asked him a simple question: "Are you happy today?" He paused and then slowly shook his head. That pause spoke volumes. How many of us live like this? Always planning, always waiting, always postponing happiness, as if it is a destination at the end of a long, winding road. Happiness, my friends, is not a destination. It is a choice you can make in any moment, regardless of your circumstances. You don't need a new car, a bigger house, or even a perfect relationship to be happy. You don't even need the world to be perfect. All you need is the willingness to see the beauty in what already exists, the courage to appreciate the present moment, and the wisdom to understand that your happiness is your responsibility. Let me give you an example from nature. The sun rises every morning without fail. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't worry about the clouds, and it doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It simply shines. It simply gives light. And in the same way, happiness is always available to us. It doesn't depend on perfect circumstances. It doesn't wait for the world to be just right. It is always within us, waiting for us to allow it to shine. I also remember an elderly woman I once met in a village. She had lost her husband many years ago. Her children had moved far away, and her health was not perfect. Yet she would wake up every morning with a smile. She would greet everyone with warmth, laugh at small jokes, and find joy in the simplest things: watering her plants, cooking her meals, talking to neighbors. When I asked her the secret of her happiness, she said something so profound: "I choose to be happy. I cannot control what life gives me, but I can control how I respond." Those words stayed with me. That is the essence of happiness. It is not about circumstances, it is about choice. The truth is, our mind is like a garden. If we plant seeds of negativity, comparison, jealousy, or resentment, that is what grows. But if we plant seeds of gratitude, love, acceptance, and contentment, then happiness grows naturally. And the most beautiful part is, we don't need to wait for someone else to water those seeds. We are the gardeners of our own minds, and we can choose every day what to nurture. Another way to understand this is through the story of two friends who inherited the same amount of money. One friend spent the money complaining about everything he didn't have, worrying constantly, and always comparing himself to others. The other friend, however, chose to use the money to help others, spend time with loved ones, and pursue small joys in life. Both had the same circumstances, but their happiness was worlds apart. Happiness is not about having more, it's about choosing wisely how to see and experience life. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but my life is difficult. How can I be happy when I am struggling? And that is a fair question. Happiness does not mean ignorance of life's struggles, nor does it mean ignoring pain. In fact, true happiness is stronger when it is chosen despite difficulty. It is like finding light in the darkest room. When you choose to focus on what is possible, what is good, and what is meaningful, even in hard times, you build a resilience that no circumstance can take away. Happiness is also contagious. When you choose it, you not only uplift yourself, but you uplift everyone around you. Your smile, your patience, your gratitude, these ripple out in ways you may never even notice. And the irony is, the more you share it, the more it grows within you. So today, I want to remind you, stop waiting. Stop postponing joy. Stop believing that happiness is somewhere in the future. Look around you. Take a deep breath. Appreciate what is already here. Smile at a stranger. Hug a loved one. Savor a moment of quiet. Laugh at something silly. These are not small things. They are the essence of life. Happiness is not something to chase. It is something to choose. And once you realize this, your life begins to transform. You see opportunities instead of obstacles, gratitude instead of lack, love instead of fear. You understand that the present moment is a gift, and every moment you choose happiness, you honor that gift fully. Remember, happiness is not a place to reach. It is a choice you make moment by moment, day by day. Choose it today, choose it now, and watch how life itself becomes brighter, lighter, and more meaningful. Have you ever noticed how often we let life happen to us, instead of realizing that we are the ones who hold the pen? From a very young age, we are taught to follow instructions, to obey rules, to fit into boxes. We are told what to study, where to go, what is right and what is wrong. And slowly, almost without noticing, we begin to write our story according to someone else's script. We live life as if we are characters in a book someone else is authoring, thinking that we have no choice, that destiny is pre-written, that circumstances are stronger than us. But here's the truth. You are not a supporting character in someone else's story. You are the author of your own life. Let me share a story. There was a young man I met who had a comfortable job, a stable routine, and the approval of everyone around him. On paper, he seemed to have a perfect life. Yet, when I asked him how he felt, he said, I feel like I am living someone else's life. I am following a path that was chosen for me, not the one I truly want. That statement hit me deeply because it reflects a reality many of us live every day. We follow social expectations, familial pressures, and cultural norms, thinking that this is what life demands. But in doing so, we forget to ask the most important question: what do I want my story to be? You are the only person who can answer that question. Your life, your choices, your thoughts, your actions, they all contribute to the story you are writing every single day. And the beauty of it is, no matter how far you have wandered, you can always pick up the pen and rewrite your narrative. You are not bound by past mistakes, failures, or regrets. They are merely chapters in your story, not the entire book. The moment you realize this, everything changes. The moment you accept that you are the author, you stop blaming circumstances, stop waiting for permission, and start creating. Think of life as a blank canvas. Every day, every action, every thought, every choice is a brushstroke. Some strokes may be bold and bright, others may be messy, imperfect, or even dark. But they are all part of your masterpiece. And here is the secret: the mistakes, the smudges, the so-called failures are not ruining the painting. They are making it real, unique, and beautiful. No one else can paint your life the way you can. No one else can tell your story. And yet, many of us spend our lives copying the colors, shapes, and patterns of others, forgetting that authenticity is the only way to make our story truly remarkable. I remember a young woman I met who was struggling with fear and doubt. She wanted to pursue her passion for writing, but everyone around her told her to follow a safer career path. For years, she listened to everyone else, suppressing her own voice. One day, she made a simple decision: she would write, even if no one approved, even if she faced failure. And in that act of courage, something magical happened. Not only did she find joy and purpose, but she also inspired others to follow their own dreams. That is the power of taking ownership of your story. It is not just about success or failure. It is about authenticity, courage, and self-expression. The truth is, life will always present challenges. Circumstances will test you. People will doubt you. Society will set limits. But none of these things can take away your power to choose. You decide your responses, your attitude, your actions. You decide whether a setback becomes a reason to quit or a lesson to grow. You decide whether criticism crushes you or shapes you. You decide whether fear controls you or motivates you. Every choice is a sentence, every decision a paragraph, and every day a chapter. And at the end of your life, your book will reflect the story you consciously chose to write, not the one you were forced into. Many of us wait for the perfect moment to start, thinking, I will begin tomorrow, or I need more resources, or I am not ready yet. But life doesn't wait for readiness. Life doesn't wait for permission. Every moment you delay is a page left blank in your story. The power of authorship comes when you take responsibility today. You don't need anyone else's approval to live your life fully. You don't need anyone else's permission to pursue your dreams, to act with kindness, to speak your truth, to love fully, or to change course when you feel lost. You are the writer, the director, the actor, and the audience of your own life. And here's the most empowering part: when you embrace the truth that you are the author, fear loses its power. Fear exists only when we feel trapped, only when we think life is happening to us rather than through us. The moment you take the pen in your hand, fear becomes a companion, not a master. It challenges you, yes, but it cannot stop you. You begin to write boldly, with courage, with passion, and with love. You begin to live intentionally. Instead of reacting aimlessly, you begin to create a life that is uniquely yours rather than imitating someone else's script. So today, I want to remind you, do not hand your pen to anyone else. Do not live a life written by circumstances, opinions, or expectations. Pick up your pen and begin writing with courage. Make mistakes, take risks, learn, grow, laugh, cry, but write your story. Only you can. And when you look back years from now, you will realize that the most beautiful stories are not the ones that followed a perfect script, but the ones that were authentically, courageously, and passionately yours. Remember, you are the author of your story. Your life is your book. Your choices are your words. Your actions are your sentences. And your courage, your love, and your wisdom are what turn ordinary pages into an extraordinary narrative that will leave a mark, not only on your own heart, but on the hearts of everyone whose life you touch. We live in a world where it is so easy to focus on what we don't have, rather than noticing the countless blessings that surround us. From the moment we wake up to the moment we sleep, our mind tends to jump from one complaint to another. The weather is too hot, the traffic is too long, the work is too stressful, the people around us don't understand us. And in this cycle, we forget something simple, yet so profound. Gratitude changes everything. Gratitude is not just a polite gesture or a fleeting thought. It is a powerful lens through which life transforms from ordinary to extraordinary. I want to share a story with you. There was a young man, successful by many standards, living in a bustling city. He had a good job, a comfortable apartment, and many friends, yet he felt restless, unhappy, and unfulfilled. One day, feeling completely exhausted, he decided to take a walk in a nearby park. As he walked, he noticed a simple scene: a mother holding her child's hand, a stranger helping another person pick up their fallen groceries, a bird perched on a tree singing its morning song. And in that moment, something shifted. He realized that all along, he had been so focused on what was missing in his life that he had completely ignored what was already there. He felt a deep sense of gratitude rise within him, and for the first time in months, he smiled, not because something had changed outside, but because his heart had changed inside. Gratitude is not about ignoring challenges, pain, or difficulties. It is not about pretending everything is perfect when it is not. Instead, gratitude is about shifting your perspective. It is about consciously acknowledging the good, the small, the overlooked, and the miraculous aspects of life that we so often take for granted. When we practice gratitude, we begin to see life differently. The food on our table becomes nourishment, not just calories. The roof over our head becomes shelter, not just walls. The people in our lives become blessings, not just obligations. Gratitude allows us to recognize that life itself is a gift. I once met an elderly man who had very little in terms of material wealth. He lived in a small, humble home, yet he radiated joy, peace, and contentment. I asked him how he could be so happy with so little. He smiled and said, I have learned to count my blessings, not my problems. Every morning I wake up, I thank the sun for shining, the air for giving me breath, the earth for supporting me, and the people around me for being part of my life. Gratitude has turned my ordinary life into something extraordinary. That simple practice of noticing, acknowledging, and appreciating what He had made all the difference. Gratitude is also transformative because it shifts our focus from scarcity to abundance. When we complain, we focus on what is missing. When we compare, we focus on what others have that we do not. But when we practice gratitude, our attention moves to the fullness of our life, to the richness that exists in the present moment. And when we recognize the abundance that is already here, our hearts feel lighter, our minds feel calmer, and our relationships deepen. Gratitude is like a lens. It does not change reality, but it changes the way we see reality. And when we see life with gratitude, we experience more joy, more peace, and more love. Another powerful aspect of gratitude is that it strengthens relationships. When we express appreciation to others, it nurtures connection, trust, and affection. A simple thank you, a heartfelt note, or even a smile of acknowledgement can make someone's day, and in return, it fills our own hearts with warmth. I remember a young woman who wrote a letter to her teacher, expressing gratitude for the guidance and support she had received. The teacher was moved to tears, and the young woman later told me that the act of gratitude had transformed her perspective on life. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it is an action, a bridge that connects hearts. It is important to remember that gratitude is a practice, not a one-time event. Our mind naturally drifts toward dissatisfaction, so we must consciously train ourselves to notice and appreciate. You can begin with small steps. When you wake up, acknowledge 3 things you are grateful for. During meals, be thankful for the food that nourishes you. At the end of the day, reflect on moments that brought you joy or learning. Gradually, this habit rewires your brain to focus on abundance rather than lack, positivity rather than complaint, joy rather than resentment. Gratitude also has a remarkable way of transforming challenges into opportunities. When life is difficult, when setbacks occur, or when pain arises, practicing gratitude does not erase the hardship, but it allows us to find meaning within it. It helps us see lessons, growth, and resilience. It turns suffering into a teacher and struggle into a stepping stone. A grateful heart does not deny reality. It embraces it fully and finds the good that coexists with the difficulty. So today, I want to invite you to pause and reflect. Look around you. Look at your life, your loved ones, your surroundings, your health, and your experiences. Notice the small things that you might have ignored: the warmth of the sun, the sound of a bird, the laughter of a friend, the comfort of a bed. Allow gratitude to rise within you. Write it down, speak it aloud, or simply feel it in your heart. Notice how it changes the way you see life. Notice how it lightens your mind, strengthens your relationships, and fills your days with joy. Remember, gratitude changes everything. It transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. It turns scarcity into abundance, complaints into appreciation, and challenges into opportunities. It reminds us that life is not just about what we get, but about how deeply we can appreciate what is already here. Practice it, live it, and let it shape your heart, your mind, and your world. Most of us grow up with a deep fear of failure. We are taught that mistakes are bad, that failure is something to avoid, that it defines who we are, and so we spend our lives hiding, hesitating, or playing it safe, afraid to try, afraid to step out of our comfort zones. But here's the truth: failure is not a verdict on your worth, nor is it a permanent label. Failure is a teacher, a guide, a stepping stone that shows us the path to growth, learning, and resilience. The moment we change the way we see failure, our entire life begins to change. Let me share a story with you. A young boy dreamed of becoming a cricketer. He practiced day and night, gave his heart to the game, and believed that if he worked hard, he could succeed. But during the selection for the school team, he was rejected, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Each rejection crushed him, and he began to believe that he was not good enough. He thought failure had defined him. But instead of giving up, he reflected on his mistakes, sought feedback, worked harder, and improved his skills. Years later, that same boy not only made it to the national team, but also became a source of inspiration for countless others. The failures he faced were not labels of inadequacy. They were lessons that taught him perseverance, humility, and self-belief. Failure is like a mirror. It reflects our weaknesses, our blind spots, and our areas that need growth. And just like a mirror, it does not lie, but it also does not condemn. It simply shows us what we need to see. If we embrace it with humility and curiosity, failure becomes a powerful tool for transformation. But if we resist it, blame others, or take it personally, it becomes a weight, a burden, a label that holds us back. The choice is ours. We can let failure break us, or we can let it build us. I remember a young woman who had a dream of starting her own business. She poured all her savings into it, worked tirelessly, and faced countless challenges along the way. But despite her efforts, the business failed within a year. She was devastated. Friends and family offered sympathy, but she felt like a failure. Yet, instead of giving up, she asked herself, "What can I learn from this?" She analyzed every decision, every mistake, every moment of oversight, and then, with courage and determination, she started again, this time wiser, stronger, and more prepared. Today, she runs a successful company and often tells others that her first failure was the greatest lesson of her life. That is the essence of failure. It is temporary, it is instructive, and it is a teacher waiting to guide us. Failure also teaches us resilience, the ability to bounce back. Life is unpredictable, and no matter how talented, disciplined, or intelligent we are, setbacks are inevitable. But it is not the setback that defines us, it is how we respond. Each time we rise after a fall, each time we try again despite fear, we grow stronger, braver, and wiser. Failure is not the opposite of success, it is a part of success. Every great achiever, every inspiring story, every historical breakthrough is built on a foundation of repeated failures, lessons learned, and persistence. Another important aspect of failure is the humility it brings. When we fail, we are reminded that we are human, that we are not invincible, that perfection is an illusion. This humility allows us to seek guidance, accept feedback, and stay open to growth. A person who has never failed may achieve success, but often lacks depth, empathy, and perspective. A person who has embraced failure, on the other hand, develops resilience, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of life. Failure shapes character in ways that success alone never can. Fear of failure often holds us back more than failure itself. We hesitate to take risks, try new things, or follow our dreams because we imagine the worst case scenario. But the truth is, failure is never as permanent or as devastating as we imagine. In reality, it is a signal that we are pushing boundaries, stepping out of comfort zones, and daring to grow. Every failure carries within it the seeds of learning, creativity, and future success. I want to share a personal reflection. Each time I have failed, whether in relationships, work, or personal goals, I realized that the most important lesson was not about winning or losing. It was about understanding, reflection, and growth. Failure forced me to slow down, to analyze, to improve, and to realign my actions with my purpose. And over time, I understood that failure is not a shameful event. It is a sacred teacher, offering gifts that no success can provide. So today, I invite you to shift your perspective. Stop seeing failure as a verdict. Stop defining yourself by your setbacks. Instead, embrace failure as a lesson, a guide, and a stepping stone. When you fall, ask yourself, what can I learn? How can I grow? How can this experience make me stronger? Each failure is a classroom, each mistake a lesson, and each setback an opportunity to rise higher than before. Remember, failures are not labels, they are lessons. They do not define your worth, they reveal your potential. They are temporary, but the wisdom they offer is eternal. The sooner you embrace this truth, the freer, braver, and more purposeful your life will become. Success is not the absence of failure. It is the courage to rise again and again, learning from every step along the way. We live in a world that often measures success by wealth, status, possessions, or achievements. Billboards, social media, and even our own conversations reinforce the idea that more money, a bigger house, a fancier car, or a higher position is the ultimate goal. And yet, if you look closely at those who are truly happy, fulfilled, and at peace, you will notice something remarkable. Their happiness is not measured in dollars or titles. It is measured in relationships. Because at the end of the day, relationships are the real currency of life, and nothing we accumulate can replace the love, connection, and trust we share with others. Let me share a story. I once met a man who had everything society could ever admire. He was wealthy, had a luxurious home, traveled the world, and was respected in his field. But when I asked him what he valued most in life, he paused and said, "I have everything, yet I feel lonely." I realized too late that I spent decades chasing money and prestige, while neglecting the people who truly mattered to me, my family, my friends, even myself. That is a harsh but important lesson. Riches can buy comfort, convenience, and admiration, but they cannot buy love, loyalty, or companionship. True wealth lies in relationships that nourish the heart, not the bank account. Relationships give life its depth and meaning. Imagine two people with the same salary, the same house, and the same possessions. One person has strong, loving relationships, friends who listen, family who care, a partner who supports them. The other person is surrounded by luxury but isolated, disconnected, and lonely. Who is truly richer? It is obvious that the first person, with love and connection, is infinitely wealthier than the second. Relationships give life color, joy, comfort, and purpose. Without them, even the grandest accomplishments feel empty. I want you to think about your own life. How often do we neglect the people closest to us in the pursuit of success? We are so busy earning, achieving, and climbing that we forget to call our parents, spend time with our children, or listen to our friends. We postpone meaningful conversations, delay expressions of love, and assume that our presence is not essential, that it can always wait. But life has a way of reminding us that time is finite and moments once lost can never be reclaimed. Relationships are fragile, and the investment of time, attention, and care is what keeps them strong. Consider this: money can make life easier, but it cannot heal a broken heart, cannot mend a strained relationship, and cannot replace the warmth of human connection. A hug from a loved one, a kind word from a friend, a moment of shared laughter. These are priceless treasures that no amount of wealth can buy. When you prioritize relationships, you create a reservoir of love, trust, and support that sustains you through the inevitable challenges of life. When difficulties arise, when stress overwhelms, when setbacks occur, it is relationships that provide comfort, encouragement, and strength. Riches alone cannot do that. I remember meeting an elderly couple who had lived together for over 50 years. They had very little in terms of material wealth, but their lives were overflowing with joy, gratitude, and love. When I asked them about the secret of their happiness, they said, "We invested in each other every day. We listened, we forgave, we celebrated, and we held hands through the storms of life." That is our wealth, our relationship. Their story was a powerful reminder that relationships are not just important, they are essential. The bonds we nurture today will become the memories and support systems of tomorrow. Another lesson about relationships is that they require intention and effort. Love and connection are not passive. They need attention, time, patience, and understanding. Small gestures, a call, a message, a shared meal, a kind word, create ripples that strengthen bonds over time. Neglect and indifference, on the other hand, slowly erode relationships, leaving loneliness, regret, and emptiness. Just as we invest in financial portfolios to secure our future, we must invest in relationships to secure the richness of our lives. Relationships also teach us humility, empathy, and compassion. When we invest in others, we learn to put ourselves in their shoes, to forgive, to listen, to compromise. These qualities cannot be purchased, yet they are the true indicators of personal wealth. A heart rich in love, care, and understanding is far more valuable than a bank account full of numbers. And the beauty is, when you give love and attention, it often comes back to you, multiplied in ways you could never anticipate. Finally, relationships give life purpose. Achievements fade, money comes and goes, status can be lost. But the connections we create, the people whose lives we touch, and the love we share, these endure. They leave a legacy far greater than any material possession. When we prioritize relationships over riches, life gains meaning. Every act of kindness, every moment of presence, every gesture of love builds a life that is rich, vibrant, and fulfilling. So today I want to remind you, invest in relationships, value people over possessions, spend time with those who matter, express love openly, listen actively, forgive freely, celebrate together. In doing so, you are building a life of true wealth, a life that no money, no title, and no luxury can ever replace. Remember, relationships are the real treasures of life, and the joy, support, and fulfillment they bring are far more enduring than any riches.